Retro Road Test, Ford Escort RS Turbo vs Volkswagen Golf GTI. The 50th Retro Road Test. In the annals of hot hatch history, two cars have earned their place as icons, the Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V and the Ford Escort RS Turbo. Both vehicles were emblematic of the late 1980s and early 1990s, combining raw power, nimble handling, and everyday practicality to offer enthusiasts a thrilling yet usable driving experience. Today, these cars are remembered as legends in their own right, but how do they stack up against each other? In this extensive road test, we'll explore their performance, handling, design, and overall character to determine which one deserves the top spot in the hot hatch hierarchy. Overview of the contenders. Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V. The Golf GTI is a name synonymous with the hot hatch segment. By the time the 16-valve version came out, the GTI had already established itself as the benchmark in this market. The Golf GTI 16V, introduced in 1986, was powered by a 1.8-liter, naturally aspirated four-cylinder engine, producing 137 horsepower, a significant bump over the 8-valve version. The 16V model featured improved suspension and handling characteristics, making it more than just a straight-line performer. It represented the pinnacle of Volkswagen's engineering prowess during this era. Ford Escort RS Turbo. The Ford Escort RS Turbo was introduced in 1984 as Ford's response to the growing popularity of hot hatches. The RS Turbo was equipped with a turbocharged 1.6-liter four-cylinder engine, producing 132 horsepower. While slightly less powerful on paper than the Golf GTI 16V, the Escort's smaller and lighter frame meant it had a comparable power-to-weight ratio. The Escort RS Turbo was characterized by its distinctive exterior styling, with flared wheel arches, a deep front bumper, and, of course, the unmistakable turbo badging. Ford's decision to equip the Escort with a turbocharger marked a bold move, giving the car a personality that was both aggressive and exciting. Exterior design. Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V. The Golf GTI has always been known for its understated, clean design, and the 16V variant was no different. It sported classic GTI elements, such as the red pinstripe on the grille, BBS alloy wheels, and the GTI 16V badge on the tailgate. The squared-off lines and boxy proportions gave it a no-nonsense appearance, typical of late 1980s Volkswagens. The Golf GTI exudes a certain sophistication and restraint, which appealed to buyers who wanted performance without drawing too much attention. The 16V model came with a few aesthetic upgrades over the standard 8V version, including a deeper front spoiler, twin exhausts, and more prominent wheel arches. It had a slightly lower ride height, giving it a sportier stance. The Golf GTI's design was timeless, maintaining a sharp and purposeful look without resorting to overly aggressive styling. Ford Escort RS Turbo. In contrast, the Escort RS Turbo was far more flamboyant in its design. From the moment you laid eyes on it, the RS Turbo screamed performance. Its bodywork was punctuated by bulging wheel arches, a massive rear wing, and a prominent front bumper with large air intakes. The RS and Turbo badging further amplified the car's aggressive demeanor. The Escort RS Turbo's styling was all about standing out. It was designed to turn heads, and in that respect, it succeeded brilliantly. While some may argue that the styling is a bit excessive, especially compared to the more restrained Golf, it's precisely this bold design that has endeared the Escort to a legion of fans. The Escort's design may not have aged as gracefully as the Golf's, but it still commands attention and respect on the road. Interior and comfort. Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V. Inside the Golf GTI, the theme of understated quality continues. The interior is simple but well built, with high-quality materials and excellent ergonomics. The seats, wrapped in cloth, provide excellent support, especially during spirited driving. The dashboard layout is clear and functional, with large, easy-to-read gauges and controls that fall easily to hand. The steering wheel is chunky and feels great in the hands, adding to the overall driver-focused nature of the car. Space is another strong point of the Golf. It offers decent room for both front and rear passengers, and the large hatchback boot is practical for everyday use. Despite being a performance-oriented car, the Golf GTI 16V doesn't sacrifice comfort or usability. The ride quality is firm but not uncomfortable, making it a great all-rounder for both commuting and weekend drives. Ford Escort RS Turbo. The interior of the Escort RS Turbo is a more mixed bag. While the Recaro seats are highly supportive and offer excellent lateral support during hard cornering, the rest of the interior feels a bit less refined than the Golf's. The materials used are of lower quality, and some of the switchgear feels flimsy. The dashboard layout is functional but lacks the intuitive design of the Golf. That said, the Escort RS Turbo's interior does have its charm. The white-faced gauges, turbo boost gauge, and RS branded steering wheel remind you that you're sitting in something special. However, the Escort is slightly less spacious than the Golf, particularly in the rear, where taller passengers may feel a bit cramped. In terms of comfort, the Escort's suspension setup is much stiffer than the Golf's. While this benefits handling, it does make the ride less compliant over rough surfaces. On smooth roads, the Escort feels composed and firm, but on poorly maintained roads, the stiff ride can become tiring over long distances. Performance and engine characteristics. Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V. At the heart of the Golf GTI 16V is its 1.8-liter, 16-valve engine, which produces 137 horsepower at 6,100 RPM and 168 Nm of torque at 4,600 RPM. The engine is naturally aspirated, delivering its power in a linear and predictable fashion. The engine loves to rev, and it really comes alive in the higher RPM range, providing a thrilling driving experience as you push it toward the red line. Acceleration from 0 to 60 miles per hour is achieved in around 8.0 seconds, and the Golf feels sprightly in most driving conditions. It's not just about straight-line speed, though. The Golf excels in corners thanks to its well-balanced chassis and precise steering. The front-wheel drive layout provides plenty of grip, and the suspension setup strikes a nice balance between handling and comfort. There's a slight hint of body roll when pushed hard, but the Golf's composure is always impressive. The gearbox is a 5-speed manual that offers short, precise throws, making it a joy to shift through the gears. The overall driving experience is engaging, with the Golf feeling responsive and planted at all times. Ford Escort RS Turbo. The Ford Escort RS Turbo takes a different approach with its turbocharged 1.6-liter engine, producing 132 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 180 Nm of torque at 3,000 RPM. The turbocharger gives the Escort a different character compared to the naturally aspirated Golf. There's a noticeable surge of power as the turbo spools up, giving the Escort a more aggressive feel. Turbo lag is present, especially at lower revs, but once the turbo kicks in, the Escort delivers a thrilling burst of acceleration. The Escort RS Turbo matches the Golf's 0 to 60 miles per hour time of around 8.0 seconds, but the power delivery feels more dramatic due to the turbo's boost. In terms of handling, the Escort is sharp and agile, with its stiff suspension helping to reduce body roll in corners. However, the front-wheel drive layout does struggle to put all the power down, especially in wet conditions. Torque steer is also an issue, with the steering wheel tugging to one side under heavy acceleration. The gearbox is a 5-speed manual, like the Golf, but the shift action is not as precise. It feels a bit notchy and lacks the crispness of the GTI's gearbox. However, once you get used to it, the Escort still provides an engaging and exciting driving experience. Handling and driving dynamics. Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V. The Golf GTI 16V is a masterclass in balance. The suspension is firm enough to keep body roll to a minimum, but it's not so stiff that it makes everyday driving uncomfortable. The steering is precise and offers excellent feedback, allowing the driver to place the car exactly where they want it in corners. The Golf feels planted and composed at all times, giving the driver a high level of confidence, even when pushing the car to its limits. The Golf's handling is neutral, with a hint of understeer when you really push it, but it's easily manageable. Lift off the throttle mid-corner, and the back end will rotate slightly, helping you to tighten your line. The GTI is incredibly rewarding to drive on twisty roads, where its balance and poise shine through. Ford Escort RS Turbo. The Escort RS Turbo is more of a raw and unfiltered driving experience. The stiff suspension, combined with the turbocharged engine, gives the Escort a more aggressive character compared to the Golf. It feels more eager to change direction, and the steering, while not as communicative as the Golf's, is quick and responsive. In corners, the Escort grips well, but the stiff suspension can make the ride feel a bit jittery on uneven surfaces. There's less body roll than in the Golf, but the trade-off is a harsher ride. The Escort also suffers from torque steer, especially when accelerating out of corners. The steering wheel can tug quite noticeably when you put your foot down, which can be disconcerting for drivers who are not used to it. That said, the Escort RS Turbo is still a very capable and enjoyable car to drive. Its rawness and edge make it more of a handful than the Golf, but for some, that's part of the appeal. Practicality and everyday usability. Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V. One of the reasons the Golf GTI became so successful was its ability to blend performance with practicality. The Golf GTI 16V continues this tradition, offering a spacious interior, a practical hatchback layout, and reasonable fuel economy for a performance car of its era. The boot is generous, and the rear seats can fold down to provide even more space, making it a genuinely practical option for everyday use. Fuel economy is respectable, with the Golf GTI 16V returning around 30 mpg in mixed driving conditions. Maintenance costs are also relatively low, and Volkswagen's reputation for build quality means that the Golf is a reliable car that can be used daily without too much worry. Ford Escort RS Turbo. The Escort RS Turbo, while not as practical as the Golf, still offers decent usability for a hot hatch. The interior is smaller, particularly in the rear, but there's enough space for 2 adults or 3 children. The boot is also smaller than the Golf's, but it's still big enough for most everyday needs. Fuel economy is slightly worse than the Golf's, largely due to the turbocharged engine, which can be thirsty if driven hard. Expect around 25 to 28 mpg in mixed driving conditions. The Escort RS Turbo also requires more frequent maintenance than the Golf, particularly the turbocharger, which can be prone to wear and tear over time. However, for those willing to put up with the quirks, the Escort remains a usable car for everyday driving. Verdict: both the Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V and the Ford Escort RS Turbo are icons of the hot hatch era, each offering a distinct approach to performance driving. The Golf GTI 16V is the more refined and balanced car, with a well-built interior, excellent handling, and a strong naturally aspirated engine. It's the more practical and comfortable choice for those who want a performance car they can live with every day. The Ford Escort RS Turbo, on the other hand, is the more raw and aggressive option. Its turbocharged engine provides a thrilling burst of acceleration, and its stiff suspension makes it a sharper handler, albeit at the cost of comfort. The Escort is the car for those who crave excitement and don't mind sacrificing some refinement for a more visceral driving experience. Ultimately, the choice between the two comes down to what you value most. If you want a well-rounded, reliable hot hatch with timeless appeal, the Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V is the clear winner. However, if you prefer a more raw and exciting driving experience and can live with the quirks, the Ford Escort RS Turbo will reward you with plenty of thrills. Either way, you can't go wrong with either of these hot hatch legends.